Well, it's Saturday morning and I'm sitting wishing it was a little bit warmer outside, but I kind of brought back memories to when I was a very small child in the mid to late 30s probably, and I remember what we used to do as a family on Saturday afternoons. We would do our chores, which took a good share of the morning, but in the afternoon we used to get into our old farm wagon because we didn't have a motor vehicle. Hardly anyone did because no one could afford one. But anyway, we'd get in our old farm wagon and my father and mother and big brother and myself would go to Warrensburg for the afternoon and part of the evening. And we would go in, and at that time there was a bridge across Post Oak Creek, river, whatever you want to call it. We would go that way and go in on West Gay Street in Warrensburg. We would go to a feed store on the northern edge of Warrensburg, or city district, I guess, and tie our horses up and give them a drink. And then we would go to the downtown area, just walk down there, which was only about 3 or 4 blocks probably. A lot of our neighbors and friends came to Warrensburg that day on Saturday afternoons also, and it was just kind of a get-together of friends and families, just a jam session more or less downtown on the sidewalk for our basic entertainment for the week. Usually we would congregate on the corner of Holden and Pine Street, kind of on the north side of Pine Street, because there was an area there with a railing that went to the downstairs business there, and that railing seemed to be something everyone leaned on, and so that was kind of our basic jam session for the week. Sometimes I would get to go to the movies there, and I think it cost 10 cents to go to the movies, and they had kind of a continuous Western type movies every Saturday, and that was a big pleasure. Of course, it's all black and white movies and not too professional, but it was the best entertainment we had at that time. Dad and Mom and my brother, they would all get with their friends and talk and talk and talk and talk and then talk some more. Then sometimes along late evening, we would go to a restaurant on West Pine Street there, and as far as I ever remember, the only thing we ate was a hot beef sandwich, which was a very good sandwich and mashed potatoes and gravy. You got a full plate full. I think it's 50 cents it costs for each of us. To this day, that's still my favorite meal at a restaurant, is a hot beef sandwich. In the evening, I don't know what time, probably 7 or 8 o'clock, there was a dance in the armory. I'm not exactly sure who built the armory. I suspect the government did. They're in the mid later 30s, kind of to try to help cities out, because it contained the only public bathrooms in Warrensburg. There was a dance there that would go on probably till midnight each Saturday night. There was always a very large crowd hooping and hollering and having fun. One thing I remember, one afternoon when we went to Warrensburg, after we were there, my brother looked down and he had one shoe on one foot of one kind and one on the other foot was a different kind of shoe. And he was so embarrassed. He was an early teen age at that time, I think. And when we would walk down the street, in order to hide that, he would walk with one foot off the curb and one on, trying to keep people from seeing he had two kinds of shoes. I'm sure it was quite noticeable. He was going up and down every step. But he was so embarrassed at the fact he had on two kinds of shoes. And that's something that always stuck with me. He was 5 years older than myself, so I got a real kick out of it. And one purpose that we went to Warrensburg for, anyway, weekly, we would take our excess chicken eggs and our cream to a place of business there in Warrensburg. That's what they did. They had chicken feed and that kind of stuff, but they bought eggs and cream. And we had a cream separator, and that was a twice a day deal to separate the cream for after we milked. It was a big part of food money, because then we'd go to a grocery store, which I think there was only one in Warrensburg at that time, on Pine Street. It was Whirling Brothers food store. Of course, all we bought was bare necessities, because you just didn't have any money or any way to get money, because there were no jobs available at that time during the Depression. If a job came up, you'd have probably 50 people in line trying to get it. So there just wasn't any jobs, and so you didn't buy anything you didn't have to have. The eggs and cream were a big part of our grocery money, which amounted to some sugar, salt, and my parents always bought the split beans. They were the rejects out of when they harvested the beans. And Mom would have to sit and pick the little pieces of sand rock and the bad parts of the beans after we got them home, and just throw that away. And then we ate the split beans, which were good. There wasn't anything wrong with them, but of course they were considered a second-class beans, so they were much cheaper. But sometimes in the afternoon when we would go home, well, Dad, if he happened to have an extra dollar or so, he would buy a stalk of bananas. And he loved bananas about more than anyone I ever saw. But of course it took quite a while. We were about 3 miles from Warrensburg, where we lived. And usually by the time we got home, our family had eaten that stalk of bananas. And because in those days, they didn't sell green bananas there. They had ripe bananas every week. And anyway, that was a great treat for the family. Probably someone could have tracked us, because we would have had a trail of banana peelings all the way from Warrensburg to home. But we sure enjoyed the bananas anyway, and that wasn't a weekly deal either. That was a special treat now and then. But it was memorable because Dad would just eat a bunch of those bananas on the way home. Well, that was just a thought of what used to happen when I was young to our Saturday afternoons. I hope it interests you, and that's the way it was.